conversation with Secretary-General of the Commonwealth of Nations, Patricia, Scotland. A Newsfirst special interview.
A very good evening to you. We are joined by a very special individual this evening, and we are going to talk to the 6th Secretary General of the Commonwealth of Nations, Madam Patricia, Scotland. Thank you very much, Madam, for agreeing to with us to be here this evening, and thank you for honouring us and my network with this interview. I want to ask you this question at the very outset. We are ahead of a presidential election with a few weeks to go. And the Commonwealth Law Ministers meeting is currently taking place in Sri Lanka. I want to first and foremost ask you, why did you select Sri Lanka at a crucial time like this?
Well, the most important thing is to recognise that Sri Lanka was selected in 2017. We held the last Law Ministers meeting in the Bahamas, and the Honourable Minister for Justice attended that meeting and really participated at a very high quality level. And when we were discussing which country would host the next Commonwealth Law Ministers meeting, Sri Lanka stepped forward and was met with great aplomb, and everyone wanted to come. And of course, the election was not at that stage known as to when it was going to be. So the time was fixed already. But Sri Lanka has a huge, long history of democracy. And so we were very delighted to be invited to come to Sri Lanka. And we have been really looked after remarkably well. So we think we made a very good choice.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now, we had the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting also in Sri Lanka in 2012. You were elected rather, as the Secretary General in 2015. You're the first female Secretary General of the Commonwealth of Nations. Now, this question comes against a backdrop where female empowerment and issues pertaining to women in Sri Lanka are being discussed very widely. I want to ask this question, how is it that you have been able to take up this mantle? How strong have you been? And for the women in Sri Lanka, what is your message?
Well, my message is that there is nothing that able women cannot do. In fact, I'm incredibly lucky because I am one of my father's 5 daughters. I'm one of 12 children. And from the moment I can remember, my father and my mother have always made it clear that girls can do anything boys can do. And that belief that women are equally good at doing things as men has been something that I've had my whole life. But I know that traditionally that was not the position. So we are very proud that this ministers' meeting, law ministers' meeting in Sri Lanka, we have a female law minister leading for Sri Lanka, and we also have myself as the first Secretary General of the Commonwealth, also a lawyer, leading here together. And the 2 support individuals who have helped to orchestrate this are also women. So I think all of our male and our female colleagues have really appreciated that this balance, the 50-50, has worked remarkably well. So I'm hoping that all young women in particular will set their sights high and know that there is nothing that they cannot do if they apply themselves, if they work hard and they hone their talents, which I know Sri Lankan women have considerable talents.
Madam, when it comes to the Commonwealth Law Ministers meeting, a lot of knowledge is shared among the attendees, and especially countries like Sri Lanka, we have a lot to learn from the other countries, and as you said, we have been a democracy for a very long period, and I'm sure there are lessons other countries can learn from Sri Lanka as well. The knowledge sharing and the development in terms of justice, how important is it for countries like Sri Lanka?
I think it's vitally important, but not just for Sri Lanka. You'll know that the Commonwealth has 53 countries. We are 2.4 billion people, and 60% of them are under the age of 30. And what we're finding in our Commonwealth is that we share so much. We have a common history, a common language, a common adherence to the common law. We have similar parliamentary systems, similar institutions. And all of us have to really deliver these services in a way that's meaningful to the people of our countries. And therefore, we have a lot to give, but each of our countries has a lot to gain. So we've been talking about how we are allowing this system to evolve. How are we making sure that all of our people in our countries have access to justice? And we're not just talking about going to a court. We're talking about how do we do mediation? How do we do arbitration? How do we make sure that people know their rights? And can we use new technology to help to problem solve, to share? And how do we make sure that our children understand the rights that they have and what democracy actually means? All of these are things we have been discussing. And we're living in a new technological age. The systems that we have inherited are wonderful systems, but they were fit for the 18th, 19th century. So what are we going to do to modernize this system for a 21st century population? Everybody now uses the smartphone. Yeah. They want an app to do these different things. So we now are thinking, how do we respond to the new dynamic that we have? This paradigm shift and technological shift has taken place, but then we have to think not all of our countries are digitalized. And we don't want there to be a digital divide between those who have and those who have not. So we're looking about how do we migrate from one system to the next. And some of the wonderful things that Sri Lanka has developed, we've been talking about. Sri Lanka's had a legal aid system since 1978. Yes. The way in which these centres have spread throughout Sri Lanka to try and get access to justice on the ground for those people who do not have it. The ability for the legal aid to actually challenge decisions that are made at every level is very important. So other countries are looking at what Sri Lanka has done, looking at how to modernize, but we have those who've also done amazingly well in terms of already starting to digitalize their system, already trying to look at how do we do commercial law more quickly, more efficiently, what do we do about commercial arbitration. All these issues are very important if we're going to enhance the wealth of our countries, because currently there's a 19% advantage in trading between Commonwealth countries because we share the common law, the common language, the common institutions. So we've been talking about how do we make that 30%? How do we go faster? And how do we go together so we don't leave anyone behind?
Madam, like you mentioned, not all countries are digitized. Not all countries in the Commonwealth are also rich countries. So when you take a look at the justice and the law, the fact that the infrastructure being available is also a main point. Now, when it comes to countries like us, Sri Lanka, we have had a long-term relationship with the Commonwealth. As I mentioned earlier, we have had several Commonwealth meetings here in Sri Lanka as well, and now the CLMM is also happening here. So is there a mechanism or a system in place that Sri Lanka can reach out to the Commonwealth for support if we need it?
Absolutely. We have had a history. You know, the Commonwealth is now 70 years old, and Sri Lanka was there with us right from the beginning. And through those 70 years, we have created model laws and regulations which are capable of being used by us all. And the Commonwealth has always given technical assistance. But we've gone further now. We have created, and you can go onto our website and have a look at it, the Office of Civil and Criminal Justice Reform, where we are pooling the knowledge from right across the Commonwealth and putting it in one place. Because if many of our countries have to face similar challenges, whether we're talking about money laundering, people trafficking, issues in relation to new criminal activities which are going to take place digitally. What are we going to do about cybercrime? These are emerging areas. Climate change, because climate change is adversely affecting all of us. So if we're going to have to make laws to introduce the commitments we've made under the Paris Agreement on climate change, how do we do that? So the Office of Civil and Criminal Justice Reform is there in our innovation hub. So all the innovations that are happening between the 53 countries, we want to share them so that if one of us spends a pound, a dollar, a rupee, then we want to make sure that no other member of our family has to spend the same dollar, pound, penny or rupee. We can spend it together and we can spend it more easily. So this sharing of our family is critically important if we are to meet the Sustainable Development Goals and if we are to get there more quickly.
Finally, Madam, as we stated at the outset, we are ahead of a presidential election. We have 35 presidential candidates this time. Democracy, as they say. And if you take a look at the manifestos of the main candidates who have released it, there is special attention to the reforms in the justice system, reforms in the legal system, things like that. Is there a special attention from the Commonwealth regarding the elections in Sri Lanka?
No, I have to be honest with you. These are ongoing global issues. And the global issues that we have to jointly grapple with are going to be there whoever wins or whoever loses, because these are seminally important issues to every single one of our democracies. And coming together to have clarity about what does democracy actually mean in action. How can we implement the things so that this is not just something we're aspiring to, but so the peoples of our countries can touch it, taste it, feel it, own it. That's what we've been talking about. And although this meeting is happening at the same time, as I know Sri Lanka is going to elections, what we are focusing on is the essential issues of justice. How do we get justice and access to all, irrespective of race, religion, or region, or country? These are universal issues, and I am so proud of the discussions that are happening in this Commonwealth meeting, because our Commonwealth really is a family. We care about each other very much indeed, and we want to share everything we have to make sure that our countries do as well as they can. And I have been delighted that at the hospitality, the kindness of the people, and the warmth. I think you have one problem, and that is nobody will want to go home. So you might have all these individuals staying for a lot longer than perhaps you would have expected. So I do want to take this opportunity to thank all the people of Sri Lanka for so warmly welcoming us, for making us feel so much at home, and for making us realize that the Commonwealth truly is a family, and the welcome that Sri Lanka has given us is something I know none of us will forget.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for being here with us this evening, and thank you for talking to us and honoring me and my station with this privilege of talking to you. Thank you once again.
My great pleasure. Thank you very much.
In conversation with Secretary-General of the Commonwealth of Nations, Patricia, Scotland, a Newsfirst special interview.